Hello guys, gals, and non-binary pals, welcome back to my channel, and today we're gonna go over what's new to come in 6.4, what you can prepare and what to avoid, and my overall plans for the brand new patch. Of course, any lists, presets, etc. will be of course listed down below. With all that being said, let's get into it. So far, it seems that 6.4 will probably release late May 2023. And you know what? The Allagan Tomestones event has been just announced. So let me go ahead, check the date. And usually it's always a month after the Mogul event. And it starts Monday, April 24th. So probably May 24th is when we're going to get patch 6.4. That leaves us a little more than a whole month to prep. And it's plenty of time to get ready. I'm also using the console games wiki for any updates on 6.4 since they usually tend to update the moment something gets announced, so it's very nice to have this so you know what's to come for 6.4. But let's go ahead and take a look at what's relevant to us as Gilmakers. First up is the brand new and third installment to the Savage raid tier. Of course, Savage comes a week after normal, so do keep that in mind if you are gonna go ahead and craft gear. Also a brand new variant dungeon, but remember this is only coming out in patch 6.45, more Criterion Dungeons as well in patch 6.45, a brand new trial along with the extreme, a brand new Faux Hollows, Blue Mage update, the Island Sanctuary update, Ocean Fishing also has a new update, the Splendorous tools for Disciple of Hand and Land will also get an update, and of course brand new tomestones. But now with all this information, what do we go ahead and focus on? Well, with Island Sanctuary, not only are we getting updates to the Island Sanctuary itself, but we're actually getting 90 slots for outside furniture, which you can place. I'm not sure if it's anywhere you want to, but of course you can place them somewhere, which means for us, we can go ahead and make bank. I'm so excited, especially since I feel like this is a good step towards the right direction. For instance, housing, I know it's a little bit of copium, but at least we have another place to go ahead and use furniture. There's a ton of furniture in the game, and sadly, not everybody can use it, especially the outside furniture. So again, 90 brand new slots, and I have a team craft list and Saddlebag preset with the best furniture. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. And here is the list. Now for these sell per week, and it's going to be above 25k per sale. So if you craft at least 4 of these, you're at least making 100k per week. And of course, some will be exactly 25k each, some will be a bit more. But with this list, I don't recommend going ahead and checking the price to craft right now, since especially if you're on an overpopulated server with no housing available, the prices will not reflect correctly until, of course, Island Sanctuary comes out along with 6.4 and people have the means to go ahead and actually start buying furniture for a purpose. But of course, you can go ahead and start crafting now, get it ready for the moment the servers go live so you can be ready. Crafting 4 of each is more than enough, especially if you have limited retainer space. I really recommend picking what's the most expensive. You also don't have to pre-craft everything. You can watch your server as it ebb and flows through the patch and see which furniture is actually being bought, which is great with the team craft list since everything is prepared for you and you don't have to do anything. But the Saddlebag preset is better since we can go ahead and customize it for your server. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. And here we are in the Saddlebag exchange. If you're curious to how I got to this page, you can go to the home page, click Final Fantasy XIV, click Market Share Overview, and you have a whole selection of presets to choose from. But this is my personalized one, specifically meant for the outside furniture. Again, 4 sales each week, minimum of 25k each. Also remember to check your server here. I chose Phantom since housing is actually available on Phantom, so it better reflects, okay, people have availability, what are they buying? That is why I chose Phantom. If I chose Louisoix, nobody really has a house, nobody's buying, so it doesn't really make sense. But of course, 6.4 comes along, you pick your server, and use of course the preset I made for you. So you can go ahead, you don't have to click anything, just hit search. Now this might look a little overwhelming, there's a lot of colors here, what's going on? don't worry, it's actually really simple. All you have to do is look down to the side here, and sorting by the highest market value within the time frame that you selected, the 168 hours, the large garden pond has made over 1.7 million gil in just that one thing. So if you were the one crafting the large garden pond that whole week and you were the one selling it, then you would have made 1.7 mil. The next one would be the Lotus Parasol, Chocobo Stable, Lakeland Elf Tree, etc. It goes on, and of course it is catered to your server. You can also sort by market state, decreasing, increasing, spiking, and stable. Sounds like what it is. If something is decreasing, then there was a previous spike, probably one person buying a whole load of, I don't know, Lakeland Elf trees. They bought 20 and no longer are people buying any more after that guy is done. It would be decreasing. If it's spiking, it's that guy buying 20 trees. If it's stable, then there means a lot of people are going ahead and buying a bunch, so it's at a stable price. And if it's increasing, then more and more people are getting together and buying that one item. And of course, if it is out of stock, then there are none on your server and you can go ahead and post them first. But personally, I sort by market value, but you could also sort by quantity sold if you don't want to have things sitting in your inventory. But either quantity sold and market value is, in my opinion, the best ones to sort by. And of course, all the item data and the universalis link is right here. So go ahead, click around, and especially if it's a vendor item, click the vendor link and you can see where you can go ahead, buy it, and flip. Next up is the Criterion Dungeons. And along with the Criterion Dungeons, they brought us some minions, a mount, and some furnishing items. Now with the furnishing items, if you remember, they were very cheap. At that point, it was around 1k to 2k when people were farming the heck out of it. Now certain pieces are up to 269,000, at some point selling for 400k. If you do see some furnishing items again that are selling for very cheap, or if you happen to get some while you're farming, I recommend not vendoring it, not selling it, just waiting a little while, holding on to it, because it might go up in price like this once again. Now with the mount and the minion, it's usually more wise to go ahead, if you get these items, to sell them immediately. The earlier you go ahead and post things like the mounts and the minions, the more people are willing to pay for it, since you're the first guy that got it. Now eventually, as the content gets even older, probably next expansion, it will go up in price higher, like the minions and mounts from Eureka or Bostra. So do be careful when you're buying things to flip, and when you're selling things that you have, really pay attention to how much you're selling it for, and if you rather hold it or just let it go. Next up is the new Allagan Tomestones. Now if you're like me and you still have capped past tomestones, you better go exchange them now, because they will of course be discontinued completely, and instead our brand new tomestones will of course be the Allagan Tomestone of Causality. Of course, the weekly cap of 450 will be removed, and any brand new crafting materials will be using this tomestone. So please don't spend them on anything if you're wanting to make gil when the patch drops, because those materials are going to be expensive the first week. And if you can go ahead, buy a few and sell them, you're going to be very happy. And just like the tomestone, the materials that we can buy with the tomestones of astronomy will probably not be as expensive as they are right now. They were up 8k a few weeks ago. Now they're around 5 to 6k, 7k on a good day. I do recommend, if you have some just sitting in your inventory, especially if you stocked up for 6.3, this is a great time to sell them, because man, they are pretty expensive. And if you can go ahead and craft them into the leathers itself, it's also a great way to make a ton of gil. Although personally, you can also sell them high quality. I just went ahead and crafted them all normal quality. I sold them fast and I made a ton that way. But remember, once 6.4 rolls around and these materials will be replaced, they're still going to be used for the crafting and gathering gear. Just towards the end of the expansion, try and get rid of it, because of course you're not going to be really needing it. The crafting and gathering gear will become obsolete very fast, and while they're pretty expensive now, I do recommend just getting rid of them by crafting or by making them into materials. Next up is the brand new trial and its extreme version. Of course, we get the trial material, the orchestral roll, and you can make a barding using that trial material, or hold on to it until the trial material is used for the glowy weapons. Now, of course, If you do get the trial material, you can go ahead and sell it the first week. You're going to make a ton of gil that way. Remember, you can also desynthesize weapons to get the material, but make sure that your desynthesis is at least leveled until orange when you go ahead and try to desynthesize that weapon. Especially if the weapons look good to you, then probably the material will be worth a little bit more. Unlike the ruby plating and the diamond plating, all those weapons are, they're alright, but they're not that great compared to Titania or Hades. Those look amazing, and of course the price reflects that. If you notice that a full week of ton of people are clearing at a time and the material dips in price like crazy, especially if it goes under that 200k mark, I do recommend buying some out, because especially when a trial contains a weapon that gives people an edge in Savage, especially for the first week of Savage, there's going to be a ton more people fighting for this weapon, and of course a ton more clears, meaning more materials dropping, and the price might dip because of that. So my deal is, if I see it less than 200k, I'm gonna be buying. But remember, you can also craft it into a boarding, and a boarding is a great way to make gil, especially if it's brand new. People often just buy the boarding to go ahead and collect, and they don't even want to bother with the fight, so you can make a good buck that way. And of course, the orchestra roll, if the OST is pretty good and iconic like the War of Light, then of course you're going to be making bank for a long time. But if it's not and it's just typical, then you're going to make a good buck the first week, and that usually tends to be as high as it will go when it's the newest, and it will gradually slow down, but you can still make plenty go that way. So roll in it. Even if you get the scrap paper that nobody wants, just buy it, just roll in it, and you can either just sell it or craft it into the full orchestrion roll. And next up is the brand new raid and Savage. Now of course Savage comes out a week after normal, so if you're gonna go ahead and craft gear, do keep that in mind. But that means a lot of things for us. First up being the gear itself. There is of course going to be brand new job gear. Remember, nothing for crafters, nothing for gatherers anymore. It is only job gear, and of course job weapons. Now our equivalent set from Shadowbringers is Exarchic, and we can infer a bunch of things here. So first up, as you can see, the Exarchic set uses the colored Aether Sand, which is red, brand new with patch 5.3. Our brand new Aether Sand from 6.3 is that yellow one. I think it's called Earthbreak. That is most likely going to be used in the brand new sets. So that is the first thing you can go ahead and stock up on. Not only that, it also uses Alcahest. And the Alcahest uses the Aether Sand, but not only that, the Sublime Solution, which is our Immutable Solution equivalent. So you can also get a bunch of Immutable Solutions ready. Along with that, it also uses a lower level material, the Sea Swallow Leather. This is a level 78 craftable, and our equivalent would be our Ophiutorus Leather at craftable at level 88. So it not only uses Sea Swallow Leather, it uses the Mithril Nuggets, the Dwarven Cotton, so think Arcane Cotton or Arcane Velvet, and things like the Chondrite Ingot. So these lower level basic materials, you can also get these ready. If you are a gatherer, you can go ahead and gather for these, the Chondrite and Dimithrite as well, or you can send out your retainer for these items. Along with gear, we're getting brand new raid potions, and of course our Shadowbreakers equivalent was the grade 4 tincture. Now if you have Palca Mistletoe, and most likely it will not be used for the grade 8 tinctures, I recommend crafting your tinctures now and selling them. Since right now they're selling for a pretty good price, it is worthwhile to just get them out of your inventory, because of course nobody really uses potions that are old later on. It's not going to be worth a whole lot. But the brand new item that is used for the grade 8 tinctures will probably be bought with our tomestones. But not only that, as you can see, the grade 4 tincture uses the 11 strike Aether Sand or Earthbreak Aether Sand equivalent. So again, having plenty of yellow Aether Sand would be a pretty good idea. As for the food, of course, carrot pudding, pianola tomato salad, all these will of course be replaced, as is the purple script items like the sunset carrot, the pianola tomato. So if you do have a ton of these items, they will most likely be replaced, but do have your purple scripts ready for the brand new ones. And finally, still on the topic of Savage, along with our brand new job gear, you're gonna have to remeld everything. So of course, Materia, especially red Materia, is gonna shoot up in price like crazy. If you remember spending 23k per each on direct hit materia, that was me, and I really regret it. I'm not making that same mistake again. So what I went ahead and did is I bought a ton of materia. Is this enough for me? For it to sell, I'm probably gonna need more, especially if you notice that your build needs a ton of direct hit, or you need a ton of determination, or you need a ton of crit. Buy more, so remember you have enough for yourself. And if you have extra, then you can go ahead and make a pretty buck out of that. But I recommend buying now. It's at 6k. Before, a month ago, it was around 5k. It's getting more and more expensive by the day. Remember to server hop, especially if you're buying a ton. Even if you save 1k per each, if you're buying a whole stack of 99, that's almost 100k you're saving. And of course, finally, the Faux Hollows. Since we already had the Pony and the Lantern recolors, I do infer that there will most likely be a Doggo Stormblood recolor coming up next. And in my opinion, that's probably going to be the best one. But I'm a sucker for the Doggos. Who knows? If you do go ahead and do Faux Hollows, you can make, of course, a pretty penny that way. And also, I completely forgot to mention, but of course, as with any patch, we're also getting brand new shiny trial crafted weapons, and the only trials that we are missing from Shadowbringers is of course Emerald Weapon, Diamond Weapon, Wear Light, and possibly they could also release an Endwalker trial weapon. Most likely not. It's probably going to be something from Shadowbringers, but of course it's better to be ready on all fronts if it's possible. And if you do end up stocking up for Endwalker weapons, stuff is pretty cheap right now, so it's a great way to stock up for 7.0. If you haven't watched my previous video, I do touch upon that. But of course, stick to things that are under 200k. If it's over 300k or more, it's not really worth it. If it, of course, will be Emerald and Diamond Weapon, please don't buy these materials when it's over 200k. Even 300k is really just too much for what it is. Since we saw the performance of the Ruby weapon, it really didn't do very well since the weapon itself doesn't look that good. So stick to buying when stuff is cheap. But of course, 6.4 brings new trial weapons, and you can get ready for that as well. And not to mention, of course, the tungsten steel ingots, the king craft demi materials, and all the stuff that goes into crafting these trial weapons. And so how the heck do we even start preparing? Well, you can start off, of course, with Materia. The Savage Aim Materia 10s, Savage Might Materia 10s, Heaven's Eye Materia 10s, and of course their number 9 counterparts. Because remember, we are pentamelding this time, and people are going to use more 9s than they are using 10s. 9s are pretty cheap right now, around 2k each, so remember to get enough for yourself and enough for reselling. But you don't have to go too crazy on them, just buy an amount that you're comfortable with. If things go south, then you have enough money to recover. But of course, if you were the guy that were buying materials at a premium, you probably want to prepare now rather than later. Next up would be, of course, materials. The Earthbreak Aether Sand is pretty cheap right now at 1.6k each. Since most likely they're going to be used for the next upcoming crafts, I do recommend buying a few right now. Personally, I'm going to buy a whole stack of 999 because I am pretty darn confident they're going to go up like crazy. Also, immutable solutions, since they might be used for the Alcahest, and things like the Chondrite Ingot, the Ophiuchorus Leather also being used for the brand new raid sets. You can go ahead and prepare those materials now. I also prepped a ton of materials for purple script crafting. Since I'm going to be crafting a ton of raid food for myself and to sell, I'd rather not be spending any money on the purple script materials. I'd rather just go ahead, buy some for myself and to sell as well. And finally, outdoor furnishings. Again, you can go ahead, take a look at the team craft list if you don't want to bother, or you can use the Saddlebag exchange preset to find out what's best on your server. If you're going to use the preset and the team craft list, I do recommend looking at it after 6.4 comes out. But if you want to pre-craft, you can use my team craft list. So guys, that's everything that I'm getting ready for patch 6.4. Now, I know there has been a few prepping videos back to back with 7.0, but that's really what I'm doing so far. Final Fantasy is just a bit dry. I think everybody knows that. So all I can do is do what I like to, and it is Gilmaking for prepping for the patch that I am really excited to see. 6.4 is gonna treat us good, and personally I am very hungry and ready to eat. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this video helped you out. And thank you, of course, to our YouTube members, Twitch subs, and Discord boosters. You all keep the channel going. Like, comment, subscribe if you want to, and I will hopefully see you in the next video. Bye-bye!